Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the second session of the Waku virtual offsite for the EU and North American time zones. We just had a great presentation about exploring the Surface Marketplace, and today we're going to discuss building a free and open source software developer community. I am Arseni. I'm a protocol developer for JS Waku. And then here with me, I have Chair. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Chair. I am the program manager for Waku, and I'm excited to bring you this presentation today. So the problem and the state of the art of the specifically Waku free and open source development community is that we have many of the critical pieces of the infrastructure required to reach people and the community, and specifically open source developers that are candidates to contribute to Waku. But there are a few holes that we need to plug in terms of engagement and coordination and making our footprint visible on social media. And so we are going to get into what some of those processes are, some of the recommendations that we have for boosting our engagement and increasing our visibility across the timelines on social media.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think the main problem right now isn't so much that like we're doing anything wrong, so much as that there's more we can be doing to further grow this this side of our community. And I guess when evaluating a solution to this problem, we have to ask, what does it actually mean to build a free and open source software development community? So the metric that we came up with as the core metric is tracking GitHub PRs that are created by open source contributors outside of the core Waku contributors. So this includes other people within other core contributors within IFT, but more importantly, it's we want to get people that are completely outside of the organization to start opening PRs. And there's two main repositories where we want to see this, which is NWaku and JS Waku, because those are, our core protocol repositories. It doesn't mean that those are the most likely repositories where we're going to see PRs, but this is what we've identified as the most important metric. And obviously there are other metrics as well. Right, so we have like issue creators, for the first time, someone who isn't someone creating an issue in any Waku org repository for the first time, someone creating a PR in any repository for the first time. There's quite a lot, but like once again, the core that I think we want to use to gauge whether or not like we actually have a developer community is specifically these two repositories. Do you have anything to add, Aaron?
No, that's rather comprehensive. The GitHub tracking.
Yeah, and I think you've done a little bit of exploration around this, right?
Indeed, and for folks that were at the most recent town hall, Alexei took people through the BI dashboards, the assorted BI dashboards And so I think that's exactly where we can leverage this type of data into a system that already exists within the biosphere. So it should be a matter of just plugging these in and making the request.
Yeah, and then just to like wrap up this section, this is how, after these slides, we're going to propose a process that will eventually lead to the increase of these metrics. But it's still, part of the discussion can be evaluating whether or not this is the best metric for measuring the growth of our free and open source software developer community. But I think it should always be up for debate on what are the best metrics and most accurate metrics to track that. But I think that we've landed on a pretty solid one.
And so one of our recommendations, perhaps our main recommendation, is this, what we're calling the Coordinated Engagement Protocol. And this is in an ultimate effort to increase open source pull requests opened by non-Waku core contributors. So this system, while it is focused on social media, we must keep in mind that the key metric to gauge from this effort will be how many PRs did it lead to. The issue, or the question was asked, what is the difference between an internal and public coordinated engagement protocol? And the short answer would be that there should be a public and a public and an internal channel for this type of effort. The type of coordination analytics examination that we can do from an internal and the campaigns that we can coordinate from the internal channel a little bit more. We can get a little bit more detailed without exposing too much to the public, but there is already a public engagement channel similar. It is called at the moment RAID command, I believe, and that is a similar channel to what we are proposing, but perhaps with a few less details. Can we go to the next slide, please? There's some arguments for this system in particular. Is there's no additional budget required. It's non-intrusive. It takes place in Discord in an area that everyone frequents daily already. Minimal attention overhead. Participation is optional, and I think something we should discuss during the discussion portion of this presentation is whether this effort should be opt-in. And if it is opt-in, then people who specifically do opt-in would receive a role that would expose this channel to them. So basically going one step further, not to bug or interrupt people that do not want to participate in such a system. But I have experienced firsthand success with a system such as this, a group of people with a similar objective in mind on social media, a similar message and or community they're involved in. Participating in such a system, it works to increase engagement, followers, awareness of a specific mission. It is quite effective. We've covered why private versus public. Yeah, all right, awesome. Next slide, please. So this is, of course, an optional system, but what we hope is that as you observe other core contributors engaging, identifying content that we should engage with as a Waku community, then you might choose to do the same.
Yeah, and the idea is that a lot of CCs already are sharing links, recommending which links should be commented on, posts that should be, retweeted or whatever. It's just now we want to take that and do it in kind of like a structured, visible manner for this reason exactly, so that like everyone else can see that like, okay, this is going on, and if this is something you're interested in doing, if this is something you're already doing anyways, then doing a bit of coordination around it can really like you can really like get more mileage out of it. And so this is a basic description of the protocol, which if you're in the Discord, you may have seen the Booster Club channel. So the protocol is simple. There's two types of messages that should belong in that channel, and we will go through and start deleting any messages that don't fit this format. Like a real protocol will reject invalid formats. So the main default case is just a single link shared in the channel, in the Booster Club channel. All that signals is someone is saying, hey, I think that people, that other, community members should engage with this post. It's just like a very basic signal that says, hey, engaging with this post could lead to the growth of the Waku community, or just in some way contribute to the success of the project. But it doesn't even have to, I don't think it necessarily has to be like that specific. I think in general, if it's just something interesting that you think if a lot of Waku community members retweeted, that it would somehow paint a good image of the project and of the community. And so that's the first kind of message. And then the catch-all case is threads for everything else. So this often will also have a link to a post from Twitter, Varcaster, LinkedIn, whatever platforms we want to focus on. But a thread basically means that it's anything that warrants further discussion. So maybe there's a specific specific protocol that's mentioned in the post. Maybe there's a specific issue that someone was having, and you want to direct the attention of a specific person to this post. Or, maybe there's just some kind of discussion that needs to be had. Like there's, you're concerned that someone is spreading, false information, or that someone is just troublesome in any way, or it's a more, you've identified like a potential partner and you want to figure out like, okay, what's the best way to start engaging with these partners on social media. It's just a catch-all case for anything that isn't that basic signal of, hey, boost this. You have anything to add, Aaron?
I think that's comprehensive. So if this proof of concept within the Waku Discord proves to be successful, the hope is that it can be adopted more widely by IFT projects. We can certainly add things like Discord bots, analytics tools, as we previously mentioned, to make this more seamless, especially for things, as Arseni mentioned, links dropped that aren't in the correct format can be rejected. This can also be, those tools can be opened up to the public once we are happy with the way they flow as well. So between the analytics we can derive and the tools that we can build around this, there potentially is a lot to do beyond proof of concept.
Yeah, the idea is that this initial solution, it's zero budget and it's zero, like, infrastructure, right? All it is a channel in a service that is already widely used by our organization. And we can already start testing the effectiveness of it. We can already start getting feedback, and that should tell us whether it's worth, investing a little bit more time in setting up a bot that automates things, or even, thinking, okay, maybe there's ways to actually incentivize every single engagement, every single like, every single retweet, whatever. And I think most important is when we do that, when we start internally, there's like an implicit, level of coordination that's not quite there if we open it up to the public. We do want to open it up to the public, but we want to, at that point, it might require a little bit more structure. At that point, like, we internally want to be comfortable with this process, such that if we open it up to the public, then like all Waku CCs can sort of, keep an eye on it and make sure that like the things that people are posting are relevant and fit the channel rules.
In terms of the Twitter algorithm specifically, and more or less the same applies for Farcaster, though I'm still studying the Farcaster algorithm. But this is focused on Twitter specifically. The most valuable engagement that you can give to any post is a reply. The second most valuable are reposts, retweets, and then likes. So when thinking about, obviously the combination of a like, repost, reply, and quote tweet is the maximum amount of engagement that you can give to any single post. If you are trying to do the minimum or the min-max, as it were, the minimum effort for the maximum juice from the squeeze, a reply to a post will hit that. But certainly a like, a repost, a reply, a quote tweet would go a long way. And something to keep in mind, especially as you see posts being shared from people on your timeline or within the Booster Club or anywhere really, the first hour of a post's life will dictate the remainder of its life. This entire effort primarily is to, again, produce more open source PRs from open source contributors. The second primary objective is to boost the visibility of the things that we choose to share internally. For these things, obviously, there should be opportunities for people to contribute in an open source way, highlighting Waku protocols, highlighting Waku, or highlighting products that feature Waku, services that feature Waku, other contributors from, let's say, relative ecosystems of ours, Portrait, Railgun, the Graph, etc., Status, of course. The first hour of that post's life. So back to the second primary objective is to make any posts that we are sharing with each other for increased engagement to show up in the For You tab of somebody's Twitter application. There is the Following tab, of course, which is all of the profiles that you follow in timeline order. But there is the For You tab that is the first thing that everyone sees when they open the application on mobile or on desktop. And our objective is for any post that we are sharing with each other to be at the top of other people's For You tabs. And the way we do that is engage with those posts within the first hour of them being posted. Ideally within the first 5 minutes, but that's not necessary. The first hour is the critical point. And there are thresholds that the algorithm is looking for those posts to cross in terms of views and in terms of engagement from profiles that are not frequently engaging with that post. So the algorithm will quickly recognize that the Booster Club exists and that these are the profiles that are typically boosting each other's posts. And that's fine, because what we are looking for is for the profiles on the edges of our own social graphs that do not touch one another's. For example, Arseni has his social graph on Twitter and I have mine. And on the outskirts of each of our profiles are users that would never, or typically will never see each other's post come across their For You tabs. And what we are looking to do is bring those users at the edge of our profiles together and more into the center. And you can start to visualize collectively how that works when we have, let's say, 10 CCs with 10 social graphs and all of these users at the edges of those graphs starting to see more and more Waku content as we boost each other's engagement. And within 4 weeks or so, we should see an amazing result in terms of the visibility of Waku posts. And these are things that we can very easily check on the Twitter analytics dashboard. So again, 1 hour, within 1 hour of posting is the prime time to engage with a post. Replies are the most valuable, and the magical combination, of course, a like, retweet, reply, and quote tweet. And I would urge people not to worry too much about curating their timeline. People are not examining post by post what's happening on your timeline as much as you think they might be. Arseni, anything to add on that point?
I'm sure we have a lot of current and former MMO players watching. I think one analogy for this is going from, playing solo to playing with like a try-hard guild that's trying, to metagame all the game mechanics in order to, just like get the most points or whatever. I think it's a similar analogy, and this is why like this slide particularly is an example of why the like coordination is important, is because there are these very specific requirements that if we do hit them for every single post, then we're just gonna get like more mileage out of our social media. Yeah, and so what we described is obviously like a very generic protocol. It's really simple. It's, just all about sharing and boosting links. But in order to have that lead to our original stated metric of more PRs, we need to, be a little more specific in how it's applied. So one quote unquote target, for lack of a better word, is hackathoners. It's anyone that has used Waku in a hackathon. For a while, we weren't seeing so much of this because we had stopped actively attending hackathons ourselves, or like stopped sponsoring hackathons. But lately, in addition to the Waku CCs that attended hackathons, we've been seeing just organically, even without our even without like any kind of active campaign or sponsorship for specific events, hackers are using it and they're winning with it. And all of this, every instance of this needs to be identified. It needs to be boosted. And then, we need to follow up with, the winners and their projects and all that. But for this presentation, the following up isn't so much important as the engagement. If someone uses our project, it uses Waku and wins a hackathon, and then all of a sudden there's like all these people, all these accounts coming out of the woodwork to like their posts, to like engage with them, to give them just a little bit more dopamine from the joy of winning. I think it will kind of keep those people keep those hackathon participants more engaged with us and with our community and with the project in general. And I think this, out of all the people we could be engaging with more, I think this is a group that can be highly likely to lead to more contributions. And another target, and this is honestly, this is like a larger conversation that we identified, but our partner communities are probably another community that if we engage with them more, it will become more likely that it will lead to contributions, because to some extent it already has. I don't quite remember if it has led to specifically PRs in those core repositories I've identified, but it's led to all sorts of other contributions, especially most importantly, just identifying bugs, identifying in production environments that like something isn't working, and then giving us that valuable information such that we can use it to improve the protocol. But in general, we need to start treating our partner communities as if they are our community, an extension of our community, because they are. And like I was talking with Cher, and I realized that, oh man, like I'm not in the Railgun Discord, and Railgun is like one of our biggest most like vocal partners, and that's a problem. And if I'm not in the Railgun Discord, it's highly likely there's other Waku CCs that aren't in the Railgun Discord. We should all be in the Railgun Discord. We should all be like more engaged and active in the communities of anyone who even considers integrating Waku.
Yeah, I think it would extend also, or for me, it extends also to, and it's really the best that we can do for these, because certainly as Waku is adopted more widely, we will reach a point where we cannot possibly be using every app that integrates Waku. We can't be in every community. But however, at this point, it's super critical, and there are a handful now that we should absolutely be participating in as much as we can. Railgun, Portrait, the Graph, and of course, Status. For any app, the Portrait app is live now, portrait.so. The Railway wallet is, of course, live now. As much as we can, we should download these applications, run them, use them, at least become familiar with them. And of course, joining the community, at least being available. And a lot of us either have an OP name or an OP number in our name, or Waku itself in our name. And just that presence alone in the Discord, if they're looking to say OP 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, Waku contributor 1 2 3 4 5 are in the Discord, that already it boosts our cohesion with that community and the recognizability, because there's a lot of crossover, of course, between Railgun and Waku, for instance. This actually leads very nicely into the call to action. I do ask that everyone, if you have a social media account, to update your profile description to clearly indicate that you are a Waku core contributor. And this, of course, extends to Farcaster accounts as well. And you will see in the private quarters of the Discord, a thread has started to collect any and all X and Farcaster accounts. So please add yours there, or if you are posting and adding to the Booster Club, we will see your accounts there as well. But there are, on Farcaster, there are starter packs, which Arseni has curated a logo starter pack, and we either should build out the logo starter pack or create a Waku starter pack as well. I do recommend Farcaster. We can spend, we should learn a lot from Farcaster to use in Status and in other places. I'll leave it at that. But the TLDR, please indicate clearly that you are a Waku or CC in your profile descriptions, if not logos as well. Arseni, if you have anything to add there.
No, I think there's additional calls to action.
Yeah, please post in the forums. We've seen a tremendous uptick in forum activity since all hands, and I encourage everyone to continue and to post and to share those posts widely in communities and on social media. Of course, forum.vac.dev primarily, or the primary technical discussion area for the org, forum.logos.co, and discuss.status.app. These are the forums. Post in them, share your posts, community building, technical posts, or otherwise. It's very, very valuable to be able to capture those discussions there, where otherwise on social media timelines move very quickly, but we want to capture things for posterity and for long-term and long-form discussion in the forums, and then share the forum posts and tweets and posts. It is demo time.
Yeah. So I think in the earlier session, we actually had some CCs try out our coordinated engagement protocol. And I believe we will do the same thing here. Do you want to share your screen, or should I, so we can show the actual channel for people who don't have access?
If you're comfy.
Sure. Okay. Okay, can you see my Discord? I can't hear.
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So here's the Booster Club channel. We have the club rules, and we have some links that people posted. So here's a link talking about Waku from Frank. Here's a post that Vaslav made about him going to an ETH event in Romania, I believe. Here's a Farcaster post about someone discussing whether or not they wanted, trying to choose between Swarm, I believe, I don't know what PSS messaging is, maybe Whisper, and Waku. This post, unfortunately, does not comply with the protocol, so I'm going to delete it. And similarly here. This one is questionable, Chair. I don't know if it technically applies. I think we want to keep it one link per post. And something that we didn't include, and we'll need to update the rules, is to actually like leave an indicator that you had engaged with the post in some way. So for example, if you like it, you can leave a thumbs up. If you comment, you can leave the speech balloon, and if you retweet it or recast it, you can leave a recycle thing. I think that's important as well, because we need to show people that, okay, it's not just links being shared, it's other participants actually engaging with the links. So yeah, so Chair shared this. I don't know which account or accounts I'm logged into, so I'm not actually going to open it on Twitter, but you see that Hano liked it and left a thumbs up. So I have this post that I made on Farcaster, which is sharing a blog post on the Waku site, or on the Waku blog. Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward, and as you know, we'll iterate on this. It'll take some time for us to kind of get in the flow of participating in this protocol. But yeah, I think if we keep at it, then we'll get, like we said, we're going to get more mileage out of our posts. So here I'll engage with Vaslav's. Here, I don't really know what to say for a comment, so I'll just say super jelly because I mean I am super jelly. He's gonna get to go to an ETH event and give out key cards and shells. But yeah, see, that took like, it didn't take long to, it was a bubble, yeah. It didn't take long for me to do all three of those things. It didn't take long to like, comment, and retweet within seconds of Vaslav posting it. So, Aaron, do you have anything to add, or should we, open it up for discussion?
No, I think getting into the discussion would be good now, and I look forward to engaging frequently with everyone's posts. I don't know if we have anyone in the studio here with us. We do. The discussion topic is, how can we better participate and adopt our partners' communities into our own community? And welcome Hano, Waku Research Lead, to the stage. How are you, Hano?
Thanks very much for the very interesting talk, Arseni and Chair. I will disappoint you a little bit because I don't have something directly on the discussion item. I just want to bring in a point that featured quite a lot in our previous session here, and I would like to understand your thoughts around this. I do think this is a great protocol, and also in terms of amplification across social media and other platforms, and to kind of get the mind share around Waku. But one thing we were discussing is that we have a range of different contributors in our community, right? Inside and outside of Waku. Some are certainly not people who even use social platforms very much. And we're wondering, what are your thoughts as well? And we shared some thoughts in the previous session around if we can set guidelines or foster some kind of culture that we can also look at our existing interactions. And what about that is not really fostering an open source kind of tribe and community, right? So you did touch on this quite a bit in terms of how we can kind of engage with our existing partners and show that they are part of the community. But one of the thoughts that came out in the previous discussion, which I will just leave, is that oftentimes we still communicate as if they are insiders and outsiders. And this is in our usual communication, right? So this is in everyone is doing this, where you don't even do this necessarily on social media, but how you communicate on Discord. And a good example that we used is the recent problems that we have had with the Waku network, right? So we, in a sense, I communicated about this in a way that would suggest that we are insiders with information about a problem and solutions, and we're communicating to clients, saying, okay, we're giving you an ETA on a solution to a problem that we have. Whereas I think what we are looking for is kind of saying, this doesn't belong to us. The problem doesn't belong to us. The solution doesn't belong to us. We are committed to seeing this succeed. But you understand when I say it's the way in which we already communicate can kind of be an example that we are indeed seeing everyone as insiders in the community. There are no insiders and outsiders. I could elaborate more on this point, but I think you get my point. And if you have any thoughts, I would be curious to know. And that's also just to mention this as something that we discussed quite a lot in the previous session, which I think is important enough to highlight again.
I think it's a very good point, and better contextualizing our content as well. One thing we can do almost immediately is better contextualizing what it is that we're putting out there, and specifically having better calls to action for potential contributors is one thing that we can do immediately, and examining from our social posts or our blog posts and any and all communications that are going out, examining how we are wording things and framing things and being more thoughtful about opening up that signal or catering that signal to attracting more users, and specifically and similarly to when we're framing whatever information or CTAs we're putting out there, to frame it in a way that, like, as you say, that involves the people more, rather than having ownership of Waku as if it were a product, framing it more as the open source protocol that it is, and not following maybe like the cookie cutter playbook of mass comms, but really, like, I think it does take more thoughtful contextualizing of what it is that we're doing and the opportunity that is there for people to come in. I think that's probably something we should begin to do immediately. I don't know, Arsene, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, it sounds like what we're talking about is like just general communication principles and guidelines around anything that we want to communicate, and kind of reviewing and evaluating how those principles and guidelines lead to the growth of free open source software developer community. Something we forgot to mention is kind of so one thing we wanted to talk about is how this protocol can be. Sorry, I got dogs fighting next to me. Something that we could use to use this protocol on is around coordinating releases. So every time we have a release, we plan it so that, like, let's say in the JS Waku team, we set a time that we're going to publish all the posts on all the different platforms, and then we'll try to have it so that within an hour that we publish it, we have people engage with it. But in terms of the actual contents of what's in the release, how we communicate it, what do we want that that post to accomplish, besides just letting people know that, okay, we have a new version of the library. I think everything that Hano described applies here. And then also there's one-off cases, like I think, Hano, you're specifically referring to when we had the RLN bug. And I remember we talked a little bit about this, how we should have, it would have been best to be, I don't know if this actually happened, to been transparent as possible and say, here's what's going on. We predicted this would happen. Here's the solution we have in place, but also kind of, like you said, opening it up so that we're communicating in a way that says, hey, here's the problem that we're working on. Can you help us? Or, welcome, Jazz, Vaslav.
Yeah, I just had a quick clarifying question. I heard a lot about the importance of social media and kind of getting the word out. Do we believe that that's the limiting factor to kind of the community growth? And is that kind of, just kind of a context about that, about other ways that we could build in community is kind of the implication that not enough people know about Waku, and that's where the focus needs to be?
So like I said before, this protocol and our efforts this week identified something that we could be doing that we're not doing. There's obviously a ton of things that we could be doing in that area. But yeah, I think it's possible to use this protocol, and in general to use social media to okay, I guess okay, so with social media, anything you do on social media initially only has effects on that platform. We focus engagement on a post to give it more likes, it might lead to that post getting more likes, like from other people. Similarly with reposts, comments, whatever. Bridging the gap between just that world, just like more likes and further involvement, I think that's the next step. We've sort of touched upon it with, having specific targets on which we focus the engagement. But you are correct. We need to then start thinking about, okay, well, what's the next step? If you've identified someone who's interested in the protocol, who is a developer, like what steps do you take besides, just liking posts to actually like bridge that gap? And a lot of it is going to be case by case, I imagine. And a lot of it is going to be experimental. If people have experience with this and have already done this, then, please like share your experiences, share your insights, and hopefully we can try to turn it into something like a protocol as well, as best as we can, such that anyone else, new person or someone who's just never done something like this before, could read the document, could see how people are applying the document, the protocol, and then be able to do the same thing. So I hope that we have, more protocols like this, beside that, kind of focus more on sort of social structures and just technological structures. But I guess, that would be my answer, is that in the future we'll have more protocols that hopefully focus on that.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Engagement's important. I think kind of piggybacking on what Hanno was kind of broaching was about the importance of retention too, right? The people that are coming in, making sure that we have a high retention rate to kind of build that and kind of move that forward. But yeah, I think spurring engagement makes a lot of sense.
I think that's a really good point in terms of retention. Something that we can use the Booster Club, for instance, to highlight, hey, we have a new poster in the general channel or wherever somebody is talking about Waku out there, and to focus that attention. One thing, Václav, I saw you unmuted. Just one thing I wanted to reiterate, and I think we made a good enough point of it, but just to hammer it home in that between Waku and Logos, we have an incredibly good structure and system in terms of getting the signal out, being able to move on things. We have our forums, we have our site, we have our docs, and we can move on things very quickly. From my perspective, the reason we sort of focused on engagement as much as we have is that because we have a lot of most of, if not all, the other elements needed. But we're sort of falling, and it might be, you could say that it happens organization wide, is it like we have this really well packaged thing that hits the timeline and doesn't always hit, especially the way that it potentially could, given that we have like 150 core contributors amongst all of the different projects. That like 150 engagements should send every post that we ever have, into everybody's For You tab, and that is where new contributors will see, and we can signal, hey, there's new people in the project, and within that messaging, and say, hey, this is where you can get started. This is where this is how you can participate or contribute. But that's really it's that trampoline bounce that we're sort of missing, is that we're dropping things on the tramp and it's sort of just sticking to the cloth. Is that a good metaphor? I'm not sure. Václav.
Well, you guys said it all. I joined before Jess spoke, and after Jess spoke, there's just like less value that I can add. But I want to also emphasize the engagement, and like if you post something on a forum, there is a limited visibility to that post, right? But if you post on a forum and then post on that link to that forum post on a social media, and we can boost it through this organized booster club engagement, then we can get the forum post among more people, and then maybe those people will comment, register, like on the forum, come back to the forum. So I wouldn't necessarily view it as I have to be posting on social media. If you don't want to do that, don't do that. But if you can and would like to support your other peers who are posting on social media and not on social media, on the forum posts, post an issue. Like if you find an issue in Codex, in Waku, post that issue on Twitter and post it in the Booster Club, and we will all repost it and be like, oh, look, this guy found an issue. Amazing. Let's go all look at that issue and let's give it some love and let's figure out how to solve it. Those are the things that will bring curious people from other projects to our projects, and they can turn into developers. So there was a question in the first run, like, we are focusing this very much on social media. What about, like what you just said, Hanno? What about other things? What about the code contributors? What about the open source contributors? But they are in the social media. You just don't know that they will be willing to contribute. And by putting something in front of them, into their faces, we can potentially convince them to look at our code and eventually start contributing, or at least using our stack. So I think that's how I perceive this. And we already do that with Chair and Alisher and a bunch of other people. But basically, when I see your post, I will like it and I will repost it, almost regardless what it is about. But sometimes I just don't understand. So like, I don't know. But like, if I do understand it, I do tangentially agree with that, I will repost it, right? And that's what this is about, I think.
I want to be cognizant of time. We're 9 minutes out from the next presentation, so I don't want to overlap too much. Thank you all for participating in the discussion. Are there any final thoughts, Arseni, before we?
Yeah, what Václav was saying made me realize that GitHub is also social media.
Yep.
You forget that there's like a whole, feed, and I feel like it might have algorithms too. Like I wonder if, more people like an issue, then that makes it more likely that a repository shows up on someone's feed. Maybe not, but
I think it's more about the stars and the forks. So if you create a project, then the Booster Club should be for that we all star it and we all fork the project, regardless of whether you plan to contribute or not. But this is what puts the project on the feed and on the trending boards and all these things, right? And again, we have 150 people that are probably all on GitHub because we all contribute on GitHub, and all my projects have 2 stars, and that's not from IFT, right? It's from my friends who I send it to, like, look what cool stuff I built, and they star it immediately. So that's another social media part where we can do.
Every IFT project should have at least 150 stars minimum. Maybe we'll make that. We could make that part of the onboarding process. You have to go on GitHub and star every single important project.
Actually, GitHub makes it rather easy. If you're on a user's profile, you can just star all of their without going into every repository, as I found out just now on the vPavlin GitHub profile page.
Nice.
Let the stars flow.
So yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you for discussing, for participating. It seems that we have something with legs. It's something that we definitely need to keep iterating on and keep developing. But I think we've successfully identified the core behavior, the core actions that will eventually lead to our goal of building a free and open source software developer community.
Thank you all very, very much.
And we'll have the next presentation is going to be in 7 minutes. And no, sorry, in 37 minutes, it seems. And it will be on Waku web apps. So hoping to see everybody there.
If you'd like to participate in the discussion, as Václav and Hanno and Jazz have, please join the StreamYard Studio link. Otherwise, it will be on YouTube and X.
See everyone soon.
Thanks.